The hunt is on for desperate dead period material. This is RamView.
Out there, so let's blow them off the line of scrimmage.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the June 5th, 2023 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at Temple City Auto Repair.com. I had such high hopes for today. I was going to go on at 3 p.m. and then everything spun out of control. And now I'm on at 8:30 in the evening. I don't think I've been on this long before. And yeah, I can't believe it. And so NBA Finals real quick. Great basketball. It's entertaining basketball. I'm kind of rooting for Denver, but it's hard to hate the Heat, if that's a little, not too much alliteration there. And so it's good. It's fun to watch. So let's leave it at that. And today a rumor went out there. Maybe it was just too entertaining and maybe it was grabbing too much attention, because now there's a rumor of LeBron James teaming up with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic and going to Dallas. And my personal opinion is, please go. Please just go, okay? And such. But yeah, once you get that bug where the spotlight's on you, it's tough to get it away. Magic suffered from that after he retired, and I think LeBron's got it now. But right now, it's Jimmy Buckets, it's Nikola Jokic and Duncan Robinson. Man, I couldn't believe that guy yesterday. Okay, the reunion between the Rams and Leonard Floyd that I was kind of hoping for a little bit didn't happen. He signed with the Buffalo Bills today, joining literally Von Miller, Taylor Rapp, David Edwards, and Travon Howard as ex-Rams. It's almost like Rams going to the Redskins after George Allen left, and they were called the Ramskins. I don't know what we call the Bills, the Bill Rams. I don't know what we call them, but I thought that was kind of interesting that Leonard Floyd went there. Good move for the Bills. Floyd is steady, if not spectacular. And that means, of course, John Johnson III is still out there. We're going to talk about free agents a little bit. What's happening right now also, again, as I believe I spoke about it at the last show, was a lot of desperate dead period material is going on out there. And you can just see it. Who cares whether or not Russell Wilson shot down a trade to go to Philly last year that he would have stepped in where Jalen Hurts was. Jalen Hurts probably would have got moved to Seattle. Who cares now? It's so far in the past, but it beats working and trying to dig out information to talk about. So we get desperate dead period material in terms of Russell Wilson going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, great. Say it in passing, but I don't need entire segments about it on my sports shows. DeAndre Hopkins turns 31 tomorrow, and news came out that he is looking for a contract similar to a one-year deal that OBJ got from the Ravens, which that's not desperate dead period material. That's good stuff. He's looking for a contract worth 15 rocks with a 3-rock incentive. That means $18 million. And so, yeah, that would be interesting with DeAndre Hopkins. He's not coming off, 2 ACLs in 3 years or 4 years like OBJ is, and he could still play. I just don't want to pay him. I would take him for the Rams yesterday. I just don't want to pay that kind of money for him at this point. And it was interesting. One of the articles, there were many articles about this. One of them I read said the only teams that have the cap space to put the moves on DeAndre Hopkins at that deal, 15 guaranteed, 3 in incentive, are the Cowboys, Jets, Lions, and Pittsburgh Steelers. I wonder how Steeler fan in Missouri, Rob, feels about that. So we'll hopefully hear from him. I know everyone's gone to bed. I know I'm speaking to a quiet audience tonight, not on at the usual time. Also around the NFL, Dalvin Cook. Rumors of Dalvin Cook leaving Minnesota by trade or cut are really starting to ramp up a little bit. Minnesota has a couple guys they want to move on to. Dalvin Cook is making 10.4 rocks a year, or he's going to make that this year. And the Dolphins have interest. So there was reports before that they were looking to trade him. If they cut him now, they save that dough. And the expectation is that he would sign with the Dolphins. He was born in Florida. He went to Florida State. So it seems like a natural fit. And what a weapon for the Dolphins to have, besides those receivers and Waddle and Hill, and then to bring in a guy like Dalvin Cook. You know, the only weak point there really is Tua, and it's not because Tua is necessarily a bad player. Far from it. It's just that he's such a fragile player, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Looking again, still available at players on the free agent wire. I was surprised to see some of these names. I didn't write down all the names, but I thought some of them were interesting. You know, Teddy Bridgewater is still out there, and the expectation is that he would be, for 1 year, would be worth $5 million. I wouldn't pay $5 million for Teddy Bridgewater. Carson Wentz is still out there. Kareem Hunt is still out there. The expectation that his market price is 2 years for $4 million. $2 million is not bad. But I don't know if you want to do the baggage that comes with him. They say they showed a videotape of Ezekiel Elliott working out. Doesn't look like the Cowboys are going to bring him home, but Ezekiel Elliott is still out there. He's 27 years old, 28 years old. Got a lot of mileage, but maybe he can spot you. Melvin Gordon is still out there, the former Charger Bronco who really had a really bad case of fumbleitis, and I think he ended up in KC last year. I don't think he got much playing time. Jarvis Landry is still out there, which I find fascinating, and he's 30 now. Seems like he's been around forever, but he's out there as a free agent. Kenny Golladay, rumor is that he might go back to Detroit. And then Julio Jones is still out there, and his market price is 2.5 rocks. You wonder, without any real pressure being put on him, without any dependency on him, would you like Julio Jones in a Ram uniform? I don't know, 2.5 rocks. Now, the Rams don't even have 2.5 rocks to spend, but at 2.5 rocks, if they could find a way to restructure a contract, yeah, I think I'd like to take a flyer on Julio Jones. Let him play 9 games instead of 8. The Rams have some pieces in place to where they could be prolific on offense. We know they're going to have to be prolific on offense to carry the defense they're going to field out there, at least for the first half of the season. Former Ram Ty Neskey is out there. He's 37, but I got a soft spot for Ty Neskey because he did a good job down the stretch for the Rams. It was a rough go at first. But that line, that patchwork line of him, Matt Skura, and every other dude from Home Depot, they did a fair job down the stretch. Of course, Dalton Risner is still out there, the guard. Roger Saffold is still out there, and former Ram Ode Abouche is still out there. Abouche was another guy that when the Rams found some traction late in the season, they weren't a great offensive line, they weren't even a good offensive line, but compared to what the offensive line looked like much of the season, you want to see these guys get jobs. Might be the end of the line for Neskey, but Abouche still has a shot. On the edge, which I was kind of hoping that if he came at a cutthroat price, I'd love to see Leonard Floyd return, but he's going to Buffalo. But on the edge, there's still some names out there. Jadeveon Clowney is still out there, Justin Houston, Frank Clark, Melvin Ingram, Robert Quinn. It sounds like I'm naming a Pro Bowl off roster from 2017. Houston's worth 4 rocks a year. Clowney, 8 rocks a year. Frank Clark, 6.5 rocks. Clark's only 30, and he might be worth a look, but I don't know at that price. Melvin Ingram, former Charger, 4 rocks, and Robert Quinn, former Ram, 5 rocks. I don't know if you want to pay that much for any of those guys. And I'm wondering as the summer goes on if some of them will really take a cutthroat price and just want to go back to work, because we are now heading into the first week of June is just about done. and they're still out there, and their price is going to have to come down if anyone's going to want them. Outside off-ball linebacker Kyle Van Noy, who still plays well, he's out there, and the corners, former Rams Marcus Peters, Troy Hill, and then of course John Johnson III at safety. I would like a reunion with John Johnson III. Again, cutthroat price. I do not want to see Marcus Peters or Troy Hill back in Ram uniforms. You just invested in two corners last year. You still got Robert Rochelle on the roster, and you just drafted Travius Hodges Tomlinson, right? You just drafted him. He's supposed to be the steal of the draft, so I don't want to see the Rams go after them. But that's still on the free agent market. Kind of interesting. I'm Joe Tarosian. This is commercial time, and I was a sports writer for 21 years. Now I do RamView, and I am happy to be here. I do RamView, and I write books. One of my best-selling books was Tangent Dreams. That's a high school football novel. Got some good reviews. You can check it out on Amazon, as well as some of my other novels. I've written 7 books on Amazon, 6 novels, 1 devotional, and that tips you off that I do this work to help pay the expenses for my day job. I'm the pastor of a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Naz. And we have a channel right here on YouTube, Burbank Faith Virtual. And we also have a website by the same name. And you can follow us on Facebook at the same name, Burbank Faith Virtual. And you can get us there and check us out, as a lot of people already have. Okay, into commercial? I think so. My Twitter handle is JoeT13B. It's the same handle for Instagram. Okay, on this date, born in 1976, turning 47 today, is Torry Holt, one of the key components of the greatest show on turf. The Rams took him 6th overall in the 1999 draft out of North Carolina State. He only finished his career with 920 catches, 13,382 yards, 74 touchdown receptions, and 7 Pro Bowls. Does that blow you away or what? And that's why, all the people are getting angry, because each year he can't seem to get into the Hall of Fame. It's going to happen for him. It's going to happen, and so good for him. But today he turns 47. It's just weird to think of Torry Holt being 47. Hey, whenever you see Torry Holt interviewed, have you noticed his fingers? Yeah, I mean, he's got receiver's fingers, dude. That guy caught some bullets in his day. Yesterday was June 4th, and of course we weren't on the air. It was a Sunday, but a couple of things that popped up there that I wanted to mention was yesterday was Mike Barber, former Ram tight end. He was born in 1953. He turned 70 yesterday. Now, he played for the Rams from 1981 to 1985. He played for the Houston Oilers from 1976 to 1981. In 83, Eric Dickerson's first year, he caught 55 passes for the Rams. That's a lot of catches for a Ram tight end, especially when you think it was a Dickerson team, especially when you think it was a John Robinson coach team. And that was pretty much his Ram highlight. The next year and a half, he kind of faded as his career wound down, and he quit to go into the ministry. He finished his career with 222 catches, drafted 2nd round, 48th overall by the Oilers out of Louisiana Tech. Mike Barber, good blocker, nice receiver, nice career. And so he turns 70. Also, on that date, June the 4th, in 2004, former Rams defensive back Al Clark died at the age of 56. Now, a lot of people don't remember Al Clark, who wore number 44. He was drafted 3rd round, 72nd overall in 1971 by the Lions out of Eastern Michigan. He played 1 year for the Lions, 9 games, started 7 at corner, and then he was traded to the Rams, Don Klosterman deal. He was traded to the Rams for a 3rd round pick in 1972. Actually, he was traded in 1972 for a 3rd round pick, 75th overall in 1973. The Rams sent that pick to the Lions for Clark. The Lions used that draft pick to draft a pretty good corner that everyone's forgotten named Levi Johnson. He had a bad knee injury followed by, I think he popped his Achilles, and that ended his career after 5 years. But Levi Johnson was a pretty special player for the time he was in the NFL. Meanwhile, in 72, Clark started a few games for the Rams, but from that time, 73 through 76, he was mostly a backup. I guess we would call him maybe a nickel back in those days. and a special teams standout. He only had 3 career interceptions, but this is where Al Clark is close to my heart. Is Al Clark on October 14th, 1973, when the Rams were leading the Cowboys 37-31. That was the John Hadle Harold Jackson game where he scored 4 touchdowns in the first half on long Hadle passes, and the Cowboys rallied, and it was 37-31, and they were driving. And then Al Clark picked off Roger Staubach to seal the win for the Rams. So I am always partial to Al Clark. And so I do remember him fondly. He passed away at the age of 56. He kind of just faded into obscurity. The Rams cut him in September of 1976. 2 days later, he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, Dick Vermeil's team, and he got 13 starts at cornerback for Dick Vermeil. Now, he would know Dick Vermeil because Dick Vermeil was his former special teams coach with the Rams in 1973, and Vermeil was also with the Rams in 72 as the quarterbacks coach. So Vermeil pulled back from his past and got a final click out of Al Clark, and then Clark retired at the end of the 76 season. So wanted to remember Al Clark today, as he had passed away on this day at the age of 56. He was a pretty good Ram. And as we come down the stretch here a little bit, short show, I know, and because of just the timing of everything. Rams, Bengals. We've done the first 2 weeks. We did Rams, Seahawks, then we did Rams, 49ers, and we're just reassessing each opponent the Rams are playing this year because we've got time. And right now we're assessing those opponents defensively and then assessing whether we think they'll win or lose. Right now, between the Seahawks up in Seattle and the 49ers at SoFi in week 2, I've got the Rams resting at 0-2 as they head into week 3. Now, week 3, the Rams are in Cincinnati. It's September 25th on a Monday night. All time, the Rams trail the Bengals. The Bengals have beaten the Rams 8 out of 14 times. They're 8-6 against the Rams, but they're 0-1 against the Rams in the playoffs. I guess that was the Super Bowl. And Joe Burrow is their quarterback, and we know they're a playoff team. They were 12-4 last year, and my initial prediction was the Rams are going to lose this game, and I don't know if the next few words here that I read is going to change any of that. The Bengals are an honest-to-goodness elite team. They are elite team. Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. And we'll talk about their offense, but we know their offense is good. But how good is their defense? I think their defense is interesting. They lost both their safeties, Jesse Bates III and Von Bell. It was a case of not wanting to pay them because they graded out fairly well. They graded out better than their replacements, so they did lose Jesse Bates III, Von Bell. Eli Apple is still floating out there. They did not re-sign Eli Apple, and he has not signed with anybody. They acquired former Ram Nick Scott, Jermaine Pratt, linebacker, Orlando Brown, the former tackle with Kansas City Chiefs. He replaces Jonah Williams, and at left tackle for the Bengals. Defense, those linebackers, Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson. Pratt graded 11 out of 81 off-ball linebackers last year. Logan Wilson was 16 out of 81. That is a solid off-ball group. The cornerbacks aren't spectacular, but they're competent. Jadobe Awuzie, 33 out of 118 cornerbacks listed. He's a boundary corner. Their slot corner is Mike Hilton, 45 out of 118. That's where he was ranked, 45th. And then their draft pick last year, Cam Taylor-Britt. I think he was 60th overall, second round. He graded out 59 out of 118 in his rookie year. Pretty comparable to where Tariq Woolen for the Seahawks graded out. And they went and drafted DJ Turner out of Michigan. He was the one taken 60th overall in the second round this year's draft, and he's a burner. And so there's some depth there at corner, and they're going to need it going against Josh Allen, going against Patrick Mahomes, and going against that track team they've got down there in Miami, let alone everything else, Justin Herbert, and everything else happening in the AFC. At edge, they got Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. Hendrickson was 15 out of 119 edge players rated. Sam Hubbard was middle of the pack. And of course, their first round draft pick, to number 28 overall, was Clemson edge Miles Murphy. And yeah, he's a beast, and he should be pretty good. And so they drafted at corner, they drafted at edge, and so they're pretty solid there. One of the places that they might be vulnerable a little bit is interior defensive line. BJ Hill is really the only one that grades out there, 37 out of 127. And then they run Joseph Osai. It's their scheme. He runs lined up inside of Sam Hubbard, kind of an edge, kind of a down guy, but he's really light at 263. So they could be vulnerable there. Now, they've replaced Jesse Bates and Von Bell at safety with Nick Scott. Now, we have, as Ram fans, we have great feelings for Nick Scott. We won a Super Bowl with Nick Scott. He played really well down the stretch that year. He basically leveled, he knocked Deebo Samuel into tomorrow with one of the great hits of all time in this era. So we got a soft spot for Nick Scott, but we also know this. Nick Scott is physical, but Nick Scott struggles in coverage. And so he struggles. And so I don't think that's a 1-for-1 replacement between him and Jesse Bates. And then the Bengals' first-round draft pick last year spent most of his time on special teams. Daxton Hill, he was taken 31st overall in 2022 out of Michigan, and he's slated to start at strong safety. So it's going to be interesting to see. But to add depth in the third round, the Bengals drafted Alabama safety Jordan Battle. So if there's any place where the Bengals are really vulnerable, it is at safety, I think, right now. And they could be up the middle. But this is a competent defense. This is a defense that's good enough to win. And it'll be interesting to see because their offense is special. I wish this was the Rams defense. I think long term, outside of Aaron Donald, this defense is much better than the Rams. And so when they match up on that Monday night in week 3, I expect the Rams to be able to play with them. I expect the Rams to, hey, if everything's what we think it should be for the Rams, they might be able to put up some points on this team. I think this is a team that's going to be better later in the season as more experience is picked up by their young defensive backs and maybe Miles Murphy gets his feet under him. But I think offensively, the Rams could play with them. The problem is defensively, the Rams, I don't think are going to be able to play with the Bengals. Not in week 3. I think the Rams defense could develop, but it's not going to be developed by week 3. And we don't know what the Bengals are going to add. Right now, they have $14.9 million. That's 14.9 rocks available in cap space. So they could still make moves to improve this team, maybe sign a couple of those or one of those edge guys in case somebody doesn't work out here. Maybe sign another safety, like a John Johnson. Zach Taylor is the head coach. And so you could see some connections there. Looking at this game, I see the Rams losing in Seattle. I see them losing at home to Frisco. And in week 3 on a Monday night in Cincinnati, I see them losing to the Bengals. Maybe not as big a blowout as we think, but I do see the Bengals maybe by 10 points winning this game because I don't think our defense is going to be ready. So at the end of week 3, the Rams are still going to be 0-3. And I think that's going to do it. Sorry for the late broadcast. It was still a stone groove because it's always a stone groove to talk Ram football. God bless. Take care. Remember, thank you to our sponsors, KisslerLawFirm.com. They're the ones that practice auto law. And then, of course, Temple City Auto Repair. My handle again, JoeT13B on Twitter, JoeT13B on Instagram. Please send us your questions, anything you like. Hit like and subscribe. Help us build our footprint here, especially as we're still producing shows, even when everyone's kind of taking the month off. God bless. Take care. We will talk to you on Wednesday.